Mr. Pruitt, I want to clarify your response to Senator Ertz on this whole congressional intent when it comes to the RFS. What I want to know, and what the people of Illinois, we are also a great producer of ethanol. What we need to know is where exactly you stand on the RFS. Are you the Attorney General who only 3 years ago sided with big oil to slam the RFS? You, and I quote, said that RFS was unworkable and also that it was a flawed program. So I'm a little confused of what you're saying today, because are you that Mr. Pruitt, or are you the Scott Pruitt today who's saying all the right things in this confirmation hearing and in these meetings to try to reassure pro-RFS states by repeating nice-sounding but ultimately vague and hollow mantra that if confirmed, you would enforce the RFS law as written by Congress? As you and I are quite well aware of, such a statement essentially dodges the critical issue for biofuels producers and workers, because under the law, the EPA has considerable discretion to adjust the renewable volume obligation in a manner that you would argue is contrary to congressional intent, yet may be compliant with the explicit letter of the statute. So as EPA administrator, you could still technically be in compliance with Congress, with the law, but actually be working against it. And your answers today have not clarified that. So my question to you, Mr. Pruitt, is this. Which specific actions has EPA taken since 2007 while administering the RFS that you, in your view, are not consistent with congressional intent? Can you name any?
Thank you, Senator. The administrator and the EPA routinely misses the statutory targets and publishing those each year, creating great uncertainty in the marketplace. In fact, in some years they've missed the timeline as far as submitting those targets by over a year. In some cases, over 2 years.
Okay, so let me ask you this then: yes or no? Do you believe that Congress intended for the RFS to increase the amount of renewable fuel blended in our nation's liquid transportation fuel supply? Yes or no?
Without question.
Without question. Yes. All right. My second question then is, yes or no, do you believe Congress intended for the RFS to be a stable policy that drives private investment in the renewable energy industry?
Yes.
And finally, if confirmed, will you commit to opposing any and all proposals to move the point of obligation under the RFS program from refiners to blenders?
Senator, as you know, the EPA is actually involved in a comment period on that very issue, and to prejudge the outcome of that, I think would be, I would not be able to do that. There are many aspects of the program, from the trading program, the monitoring of fraud in the system, that need to be better administrated by the EPA. These have been administration issues. The EPA has created uncertainty. We talked about a minute ago with the Senator about the amount of investment that's gone into the infrastructure because of the 2005 law. Those individuals need to have certainty and confidence that the RF is going to be enforced and administered pursuant to the desires of Congress.
Right, but if you were to do that, then you would actually have to answer, yes, because to move the RFS program from refiners to blenders is actually one of those ways that you can actually undermine the RFS standards as intended by Congress, which you yourself just now said was intended to increase the amount of biofuels blended into the fuel supply of the United States. This is my problem. On the one hand, your entire track record shows you to be someone who opposes the RFS, and yet here in front of Congress and in meetings with senators, you are giving these vague answers that sound right when it comes to the RFS, but really opens all sorts of back doors for you to oppose the Renewable Fuel Standard. And that is very troublesome, because all across the Midwest, you know, for those of us who have fought to strengthen national security by lessening our country's dangerous dependence on foreign oil, I'm really incredibly concerned about the future of the RFS and American-produced biofuels under a Scott Pruitt-led EPA. And I'm also incredibly concerned about what you're going to do in terms of protecting the environment. In your answer to one of my colleagues about what the role of the EPA is, what is the job of the EPA, one of the first questions you got, you spent 5 minutes talking before you actually said, protect the environment. You talked all about reducing EPA's influence over states for a good 5 minutes before you actually got to the environment. And then for my farmers, my corn and soybean producers, for my biofuel industry, the RFS is critical in order to continue that. And I would rather burn American-made, American-grown corn and soybean in my gas tank than I would oil from the Middle East. I've already been to a war fought over oil in the Middle East, and I don't intend to allow us to continue to do that, which is why the RFS is so critical, not just for the jobs in Illinois, not just to support our Illinois agriculture, but for our national security when it comes to where we're going to get our energy supply. I'm out of time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Duckworth.
If I may, Senator, let me say to you, the role of the administrator of the EPA is to enforce and administer the RFS program to carry out the objectives of that statute. Those targets that have been put in that statute by this body need to be respected. The discretion authority, the waiver authority of the administrator needs to be judiciously used to address those concerns that we've talked about. And so I don't want you to have any concern about the intent, objective, or will, if confirmed, of carrying out the RFS mandate or the statute in whole.
That very answer concerns me because you've not actually said that you're going to stick with it.